I was in the car when law enforcement murdered my white brother. This is how I feel about #BLACKLIVESMATTER. The police shot my white brother 14 times in a crowded Walmart parking lot, killing him. He was wanted for a probation violation when a man we had never seen before jumped in front of the sub we were in with a gun pointed directly at his head. He was driving. He began backing up in the opposite direction of the man. The man ran towards us, and within seconds confusion had set in. The music was loud, but the noises that came next is something I'll never forget. I remember he shoved me on the floorboard. Then acceleration, impact, the car coming to a dead drop, then the smell of burnt skin and the sound of the horn. That man was a plainclothed officer. Unbeknownst to us, his partner was behind us, to the side, not in the way of the reversing vehicle. They both reloaded their guns twice. Bullets were found in the shops a football field away. I survived. My brother didn't. I'll never forget the smell of his burnt skin and the sound of the horn as he lay on it, dead weight. I had to sit in the car with him for what seemed like forever, but I couldn't touch him because a gun was pointed on me. I'll listen to them talking about what they will do if they see movement. Finally other agencies arrived. People were screaming and videotaping 50 witnesses to testify against those cops lined up, and not one was questioned. Before my brother was even laid to rest, they had those 2 cops justified. Attempted vehicular homicide on law enforcement was what they accused him of. I've never been the same since. I don't trust the police whatsoever. I'm terrified of their authority. This is not just a black person's problem. I wish we could all rise up together against police brutality in general. I need black people and black people need me. I feel alone with no support because when asking black victims' families of police brutality for a platform, I get treated as if I just screamed the worst word at them. We are stronger together is all. I'm not trying to take away from anyone. I'm trying to speak out. I wish police would stop killing unarmed citizens of all races. I know that if my story had any publicly, people would be outraged the same way. Maybe if the slaying of all races were publicized, then the radical racist people who back the police so hard only because they killed a black person will stand up against the police. The bottom line is, we need the authority of police to kill to be taken. They work for us. We must drop worrying about the racists or the blue liversmatter etc. and get everyone against the police until they zero legs to stand on and this stops. We cannot fight racism while fighting brutality. We need all Americans on our side. Fuck the racists and people who don't care because it was a black person. We will never change their mind. The fact is we still need them on our side and their votes somehow. The only way to do that is to expose all brutality. Outrage every single American of every political party, of every race, of every background. This is a human rights issue. Enough is enough. Please stand with me, together. I love you all. The woman my husband left me for is pregnant, and I'm not handling it well. I'm 36F. Husband is 37M. My husband and I have been together for about 14 years. For the most part our marriage has been absolutely wonderful. That changed about 2 years ago. After trying for baby 4 years we decided to seek out a fertility clinic. After many tests it was concluded that I was the problem. I don't want to get into it, but I'm unable to carry a child. It sent me into a pretty deep depression. My husband was wonderful throughout the entire thing. He gave me the space I needed to grieve and be sad. After about 3 months he brought up getting a surrogate or adoption. I lost it, and during the argument I accused him of blaming me. A couple of days later he suggested I go to therapy, which I did. I was diagnosed with depression and put in medication. This severely impacted my libido. It's basically non-existent. He eventually sat me down and explained his needs. I told him I understood, but I can't give him sex or intimacy right now. It blew up into a huge fight. I accused him of caring more about sex. He said he cares about me, but I cannot expect him to go without either. In anger he said I might as well just find it somewhere else. And in anger I told him to go ahead. That's where the distance between us got bad. He basically stopped trying, and we pretty much stopped talking. I eventually found out that he was having an affair. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it, but didn't seem remorseful about it either. I told him I wanted him out and he left. A couple of days later I was served with divorce papers. Well now I'm finding out the woman he left me for, the same one he had the affair with, is pregnant. I'm not handling this well. I plan on talking to my therapist about it, but I'm in a bad place right now. I just needed to vent. Thanks for listening. We are divorcing. Keep the dog with you. I'm sick and tired. I'm not looking for any advice. I know I will ask for the divorce, so I just want to let all out. We decided to wait for the baby. How long should I keep waiting? My biological clock is ticking. I don't want to be 50 when you finally decided that we should have a baby and I want to get pregnant. I want to be the one who has the baby in my belly and I don't want to be an old lady when I have to take them to the kindergarten. If you don't want babies with me, just say so. Don't make me feel hope just to make excuses again. Just find yourself a mistress. Maybe like that I'll feel less guilty that I'm starting to resent you. Why do you say you want to have kids with me and then make excuses to try next year and then the next year? I wouldn't have any problem with waiting if it weren't for you getting me excited and then throwing me down. But this is not just because the baby, it's because a lot of other things. The baby and the dog problem is just my last straw. He bring a dog to the house. I don't like dogs, and he knows it. The only animals I like are cats because they're clean, and we already have 2. He likes dogs. Why he didn't even talk to me about it before he brought the dog to the house? Maybe I would have approved of it if we had talked about it earlier, but my opinion doesn't matter. I'm just the cool wife who has no thoughts of her own and shares all opinions with her husband, even though it's not like that. We are the perfect match in everyone's eyes because he speaks, and I never express an opinion that contrasts to his point of view. My intelligence is never going to be the same as his, because he's always going to find a way to make me feel dumb and explain things I already know. I got annoyed, but I tried to not show it while he was insisting and grabbing my hand to force me to pet the dog. I just told him that he should have asked me before bringing a dog to the house because we work, and since I'm the one who works from home, I'll be the one who takes care of the dog, and I don't want that. I don't want to take care of a dog. He just keeps insisting that the dog will take care of himself and he will teach the animal to behave. I was too tired to even argue because he wouldn't listen, and the dog was running my cat's stuff the house. He tried to teach the dog to behave, but the dog is too young to learn and just keeps barking and breaking things. So he got tired and just let the dog do whatever he wants. I know it's not the dog's fault, but my husband's fault, because he just laughs every time the dog breaks something until I scold him. My husband didn't even respected my opinion when I told him that the dog can't stay inside the house. He even put the animal in our bed, and I hate the smell of dogs. I have been trying to tolerate all of this until today. We were eating, and he put the dog on his lap. I told him that's unhygienic, and he just laughed and said, "Oh honey, it's just a little puppy. You two will be great friends," and started feeding the dog with the meat from my plate. My food, not even from his plate. I told him that's my food, and he just told me that I shouldn't be cruel with the dog. I said that it's selfish from him to not letting me have a baby when he bring a dog without talking with me first. But his logic is that he taught a dog will make me forget about the baby, because a lot of lonely people have a dog as their babies. So I'm the lonely people. I'm the lonely people because he makes me feel lonely and tired all the time. He knows I don't like dogs. Maybe this was my breaking point, and I'm a piece of garbage who is throwing everything she built. Maybe my husband deserves a much better woman than me who will love him and the dog, but I'm tired. I will ask for the divorce. This was my last straw. He does not listen to me, and I believe that he has never listened to me. He has never heard anything but the echo of his thoughts, which are always correct, because in his mind he is the voice of reason. He's in love with himself and everything about himself. He's in love with his own voice. Front desk receptionist mentioned my rape. My day is ruined, and I don't know where to go from this. I'm a freshman university student who was referred to specific doctor from the physical therapist for my major. Everything was presumably going well, but I was nervous as this was my second time really going to the doctors alone. I realized I wasn't in the database for some reason after submitting my information in at the kiosk, so I went to get help from a receptionist so I could carry on with my appointment. She asked for my personal information and everything was going fine until it was time for me to pull out of insurance card. Upon seeing it was Medicaid, she suddenly got so cold to me for no reason, exclaiming in a louder tone than before, "We don't take Medicaid here, like at all." She went around trying to figure out how else to help me, but was very obviously pissed off at me. I overheard her and her coworker talking crap about another patient. At one point she was looking through records to see what was going on, but for some reason she felt the need to mention the last reason I went to that hospital, which was my sexual assault. She said, "Yeah, the last thing it shows in here is, come closer." Then she whispers in my ear kind of loudly, "Your sexual assault." I froze and immediately tried not to cry the entire time while keeping my composure. It has been 3 hours, and I'm still crying about this. Had a breakdown about it in front of my professor, who told me that it was unprofessional of her, but I still can't help but to feel like I'm overreacting. Edit. The woman who was working is not a nurse or R.N. She was just working at the front desk. I was under the assumption that I had an appointment as a PT and doctor were in communication, but I wasn't given an official referral. I not once made it hard for her or carried a rude tone. I simply asked for help in a polite tone while giving her the information. I didn't say anything afterwards because I was in shock. The only words I managed to say were, "Oh, okay, no worries." The man that they made fun of was in a wheelchair and ran into the sliding doors that take you into the orthopedics office. She was looking into my records to see any past uses of my insurance at their locations, and that is when she whispered loudly to me. I should also make note that there were a bunch of people in the office as it was busy, and a man sat in a chair adjacent to me was from hearing range. It is a large and renowned institution with multiple locations in my state and at a local doctor's office. I thought I had a good marriage. This story happened a while ago, but just feeling okay to write it out. I, 33F at the time, met my now ex-husband, 33M at the time, on old. We got along great from the beginning. He made me feel like I was alone with him even in a crowded room. Really early on he had me meet his whole family. I waited to have him meet mine. BC I have kids from a previous marriage. We dated for about a year. During that time he had to go back to Venezuela once for several months. BC he was here on a visitor's visa. The situation there was really bad, so he was trying to spend as much time as possible here. Just before he was set to go back again, we had a great night out with my coworkers, and at the end of the night he pulled me close in the parking lot to tell me how much he loved me and that he wanted to be with me forever. He said it wasn't about getting a green card and that he would stay here forever as an illegal if he had to just to be with me. He said he wanted me to be his wife, and I said yes. After that we started to figure out logistics and decided we should get legally married so that he could start the visa process here. We had a small beautiful wedding a few months later. Everything was perfect. I bought a bigger house and he and his mother moved in with me and my kids. This whole time he was working under the table as a live sound engineer. He was very successful in his career while in Venezuela, doing a lot of big concerts, and found a company here that gave him steady gigs plus let him work managing inventory and doing repairs of sound equipment. He had one steady gig every Sunday at a mega church. Back to the marriage. After we got married, our sex life really does out. We were close outside the bedroom, but rarely had sex. After we got married, and once we hit the 1-year mark, it died out completely. Our schedules were way different, but we still spent a lot of quality time as a couple and family. Most of our couple time we would drink, so I thought maybe it was alcohol affecting him in the bedroom, and honestly sometimes we would get into bed after enjoying too many drinks and just pass out. In 2019, 1.5 years into the marriage, we had an awesome Thanksgiving celebration on the Saturday after Thanksgiving to accommodate all our families. It was a perfect day. The next day he goes to his church gig like normal. I was at home and went on my computer to check my email. A while back he had logged into my computer and my mail stuck to his being the primary account for some reason. Every time I logged in, I'd have to switch to my account. Never have I looked at his emails, but that day a certain email stuck out to me. I couldn't help but look at it. It was from someone named something like Alexi69 entitled Session. When I clicked that email my heart dropped. The email was setting up a muscle worshipping session. It took a quick Google search to figure out what a muscle worship session was. She specifically said no sex in the email. Apparently my then husband had a thing for muscle bound women. I did a quick search of the rest of his emails and didn't see anything else, so I waited until he got back from church to confront him. He swore that this was a one-time thing, that he was just curious and wanted to try it. BC he did have a fetish for muscle-bound girls. I'm curvy and more of the squishy side. He cried a lot. Something just felt off though. I told him we would be divorced if he didn't let me look through his phone. It took him about an hour, locked away, to give it to me. Well, I immediately went to his WhatsApp and double swiped down to see his deleted messages. There were at least 100. Girls, guys, and everything in between. He apparently had relationships with some and was just asking arrangements with others, mostly the men. There was one particularly buff girl, like Arnold Schwarzenegger buff, that he seemed to have a long-term relationship with. I'm kinda petty, so I proceeded to take a selfie with him crying in the background and send it to all of them explaining that I'm his wife and that he was a cheater. A lot of the girls responded telling me they had not known or that they broke up with him when they figured it out. The buff one didn't respond, but her best friend did. She told me that he had been telling people that we had an arrangement just to get him a green card. During this whole time there was a lot of crying and groveling from him and a lot of screaming from me. I kicked him out and told him his mom needed to be gone by the next day. He cried more but finally left to his brothers. This all happened on December 1st. On December 31st I met him at the courthouse to file divorce. He was still crying and groveling. My heart was already broken, so I wasn't having any of that. Thankfully we didn't have any joint assets, so divorce was just some paperwork. It was finalized by January 15th. He called me once, since this was all done, to ask me to help him with the next step for his permanent residency. Obviously I said no. TLDR, I thought I had a nice husband, but turns out he really just wanted a green card and was cheating on me with anything that moved and had a fetish for bodybuilders. My mother-in-law is a fucking idiot. Fuck you Patty, you dumb bitch.